My name is Elizabeth Furniss, and I finished my sampler in 1836 when I was 13 years old.
Hello, I'm Nicola Parkman from Hands Across the Sea Samplers. A few weeks ago we published a video showcasing some greeting cards that we had produced, and Elizabeth Furniss was one of the samplers featured on those greeting cards. Following the publication of that video, I received a few emails asking if I would do a video showing Elizabeth in detail. So today I've taken the glass out of the frame so that we can have a good look at her. Elizabeth stitched this beautiful sampler when she was 13 years old, and it's a lovely example of schoolgirl art. Elizabeth chose a very fitting verse for a sampler.
Jesus, permit thy gracious name to stand as the first effort of a female's hand, and has her fingers on the canvas move. Engage her tender heart to seek thy love, with thy dear children may she have a part, and write thy name thyself upon her heart.
The verse is attributed by some to John Newton, who is best remembered for the beautiful hymn Amazing Grace. It's thought that he composed the verse for his niece. However, it has also been suggested by some that Isaac Watts wrote the verse for his niece. Whoever wrote it, it's a beautiful verse that is very popular on schoolgirl samplers. The sampler is contained within an undulating carnation border and is composed of two sections. Depicted below the verse in the top section is one of the most popular all-sampler subjects, Adam and Eve, symbolising the struggle between good and evil. The limbs of Elizabeth's magnificent tree spread wide and are heavily laden with apples. An apple in a serpent's mouth denotes original sin, whereas an apple as a gift signifies a declaration of love. The words for evil and apple in Latin are spelt the same, malum. Either side of the tree are bright red roses in full bloom, showing the influence of the Berlin woolwork patterns from Germany that were starting to become popular in England at this time. The bottom section features a large red brick mansion house, bordered by mature cedar trees and set over a patchwork pasture. This is crammed full with out-of-scale animals, which adds a wonderful naive charm and rich symbolism to the pastoral scene. All of the individual animals have symbolic meanings. Fancy cockerels represent vigilance and pride. Striped geese, conceit and watchfulness, love and marital happiness. The stags represent faithfulness and charity. Elizabeth also included an abundance of hares and rabbits, which represent gentleness and timidity. A colourful parrot represents gossip. A lion, strength, majesty, courage, wisdom and protection. The two leopards signify sin, ferocity, courage, pride and speed. There are also many sheep, meekness and silliness, with their lambs, youth, innocence, gentleness, humility, charity and sacrifice. All of them are patiently watched over by a shepherd and shepherdess with dogs at their feet. The sampler has many other symbolic motifs, including birds, which represent the spirit of the air, squirrels, mischief, and angels with trumpets, the voice of God, hearts, charity and love. Antique samplers combine our love of needlework and history. The backstory to a sampler fascinates us. One of the first things that we will do if a sampler catches our eye is to run the little girl's name through Ancestry. When we did this for Elizabeth, there were several little girls born in 1823 or thereabouts, so we couldn't say with any certainty which one was our Elizabeth. When we published the chart, we very quickly found out through social media, and in particular the needlework groups on Facebook, that there were other 9 samplers that contain some of the distinctive motifs in Elizabeth's sampler. The Adam and Eve scene, the apple tree, is very distinctive. So is this house with the cedar trees either side, the patchwork lawn with its stripy geese and shepherd and shepherdess. There were all these samplers that were coming out of the woodwork that featured some or all of these motifs. One of those samplers had the name of the school that the sampler had been stitched in, Darnell School. Through Google, we found out that Darnell School was in the city of Sheffield. By putting all the little girls' names through Ancestry and focusing on Sheffield, we found that they had all been born within 1 square mile in the city centre, and it's where the campus of Sheffield University is situated today. We found an Elizabeth Furniss being christened in 1823 and in this 1 square mile. So we're very, very confident we have found our Elizabeth. Through Ancestry, we managed to trace her from her birth to her death, and she lived quite an interesting life. She had a good life. She came from quite humble circumstances. Her father was a blade cutter in one of the stainless steel factories that Sheffield was famous for. He was a blade cutter. Sheffield specialised in scissors and knives. They lived in a house in a very poor area of Sheffield, and families shared rooms in these houses. When Elizabeth got married, she married a young man of equally humble circumstances, but he was obviously a hard-working, enterprising young man. He had a haulier company, which at that stage would have been a horse and cart. Through the censuses and the trade directories, we can see this business growing, and they move from the city centre, moving out through the decades into bigger and grander houses. And the last census before her husband died, they were living in the country in a grand house that had a butler and housemaids and a cook. When he died, in his will, he left the sum, or if I can say, the sum equivalent to today's value of £5 million. So, Elizabeth, whether she was happy or not is another thing, but she certainly had a comfortable life. I just find it all so fascinating, and I hope you do too, and I hope that you have enjoyed listening to me babble on about Elizabeth, but we do love her. We're very fond of this sampler. Elizabeth's chart is available through our website if you would like to stitch her. She comes in full colour, and she is a colourful sampler. The model was stitched by Boomer Aravarduman, and Boomer has also stitched another sampler for us, Helen Kedsley, which is a Scottish sampler, and we will have a look at Helen in another video at a later date.